Hey Jordan, what's up, man? This is Torry Holt. Hope all is well. Wanted to congratulate you on your first season of the Circus Catch. I know you're coming up on your last show, so I want to give a shout out to your audience, man. So thanks to everybody for watching season 1 of the Circus Catch. Enjoy the season finale. It's your boy, All Hands. Have a good show, Jordan. All the best. Peace.
I don't want to sound too much like a fanboy, but having big game Torry Holt introduce me on my show, one of the biggest reasons I fell in love with sports, especially football, and specifically the Rams, to say it's a dream come true would be a woefully unjust understatement. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the final episode of Season 1. With you as always, I'm your host, Jordan Wright. Today I'm giving the guys a chance to talk about how they really feel, an unscripted, unedited excerpt on what is important to them in the sports world. But before we bring the other guys on, I'm going to take the metaphorical and literal mic and go first. My excerpt just so happens to be about future Hall of Famer Torry Holt. I want to start off once again by telling him thank you. If I never make it any further in sportscasting than having one season of a podcast, the best moment will have been seeing this thing go full circle, watching my favorite player from the greatest show on turf so graciously having him agree to hype up my audience for our season finale. Thank you, Mr. Holt. Before I go any further, I do want to mention the good work that he and his brother have been doing. Terrence and Torry founded the organization Holt Brothers, Inc. The organization is dedicated to helping the community, specifically with the Kids Can program, a program that supports kids who have a parent with cancer. From the Holt brothers' own experience, they want to make sure that kids going through such a unique and difficult challenge don't have to worry about the support they so desperately need. Now back to the matter at hand. Torry Holt not being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is an absolute travesty. It's honestly a slap in the face to one of the greatest to ever suit up at the position, and one that was so dynamic and literally put his body on the line every single day. I mean, hey, you guys saw his hands. He wasn't afraid of anything. At the end of Holt's career, the man retired as the 10th leading receiver all time in just 11 seasons. 13,382 yards was his career total. That per year average, believe it or not, is actually higher than that of the great Jerry Rice. These days, though, it's becoming increasingly hard to get into the hall at wide receiver. Steve Smith, Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Torry Holt. There are some other notable names. These guys are all still waiting to get into the hall. It was once the literal, now it's the proverbial knock that they are waiting for on their hotel door to be able to get in. But outside of just being a Rams fan, I believe that Torry Holt needs to be in the Hall of Fame because of what he did in his era. Let's take a look at some of these numbers. During his 11-year career, he ranked first in total receiving yards. Those 11 years include a span that saw guys like Randy Moss and Terrell Owens play every year in that exact same span, both of whom finished second and third respectively. In 2 seasons, 2000 and 2003, he led the entire NFL in receiving yards. He posted 8 straight seasons of over 1,100 yards, and he is tied in second place with 6 seasons of 1,300 yards with Randy Moss and Julio Jones, and only trailing the great Jerry Rice, who had 7. Now here's the good news. Next year's first ballot eligible class is not a particularly enthralling one. Outside of Antonio Gates and most likely Julius Peppers, I'm uncertain that any of these guys get in on their first try. Of the notable names from the greatest show on turf, all but one are already in the hall. Among the likes of great names in Rams history like Falk, Pace, Warner, Bruce, and even Vermeil belongs the name Holt. Book it now, Torry Holt, class of 2024, or we riot. So the guys are going to be filtering in and out throughout the episode. At the moment, I've got Jesse Larson joining me right now. Jesse, thank you so much for coming on to this finale of the Circus Catch, Season 1.
Hey, Jordan, thanks for having me. It's always a good time to be hanging out with you. I'm a little bummed we can't do it like we did last week, but hey, I'll take this.
This is more familiar to me, although last week was way cooler. I will say that, but I can't afford to keep staying in Vegas.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I had to come back to Cowtown. So Jesse, we were really, really close to being able to add something to last week's docket. We didn't get around to it, but we need to talk about the new champion in the NHL, and that is the Vegas Golden Knights. What did you think of this series?
Well, I thought it was pretty straight up domination by Vegas for the most part. Couple moments where Florida had, you know, showed that they could compete, but man, it was a bloodbath. I mean, it wasn't even close, man. It just how do you give up 9 goals in a Stanley Cup final, game 5, with the season on the line, with a championship on the line, and you just get bodied like that? It's just, man, kudos to Vegas, though, man. They put it all on the line and just kept going.
It's like you said last week. Florida had nothing. They were gassed. They were completely done. No energy, no nothing. It was all Vegas from start to finish in that game. I actually walked down the strip during the second period. First period, I got a little bored and the kids were hungry, so we walked down to the Cantina Taco Bell. You know, one of those kind of touristy things. They saw everybody drinking out of the yardsticks or the yard glasses, and I said, "Well, you're going to get one without alcohol, but you can get one." So we went down there, and while we were there, on the big screens everywhere, the game's playing and people are cheering. They scored 2 goals while we were there. And then we go back to the hotel because we didn't want to be out on the streets during all this raucous behavior. So we went back, went up to the rooftop actually as the game was about to end. My sons were swimming in the pool. I went up there and kind of looked out. I could see T-Mobile Arena from where I was at, so that was the cool thing. I was actually about a half mile away, and you actually went up there with me, so you saw where it was at from up there. So we kind of saw that, and as soon as the game was over, all of the hotels all across the strip, they all had all these lights and signs. Congrats, Vegas Golden Knights, world champions 2023.
They earned it in 6 long years, whatever you want to say. I mean, it's unprecedented, really, to look at it. Can't really think of an expansion team in any pro sport in the United States that's really had this success this rapidly.
When the parade happened, that looked crazy. I was well out of Dodge by then, thank goodness. But the day of, I was a little surprised it wasn't more crazy than it was. Obviously, I was pretty far away from T-Mobile. I saw that on the screen. It was just flooded with people. Couldn't really see the people from where I was. I just know the strip was shut down by the cops. Helicopters were circling all around in the air. So I was expecting something a little bit more crazy than what happened. But I thought about it too. And I've seen this a few different times when teams have won championships in cities where there's a lot to do. We look just back to last week when Denver won the championship. Not that there's not a lot to do in Denver, but for the most part, it's not really a touristy area. So Denver fans showed out in droves. Vegas, people from all around the world at any given moment, more than half of the people in Las Vegas are not residents of Las Vegas. So I should have probably seen it from that perspective. I look back to the Rams winning the Super Bowl a couple years ago, their parade, their championship. You know, people in LA, they're there to do LA things. They're traveling. They're doing all the Hollywood Tinseltown kind of stuff. So you're not going to get as big of a celebration as you might in a city like Denver or a city like Kansas City, for example. So it was an interesting thing to look at and something I hadn't really thought about before. But I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to that going forward.
Yeah, I think that, like with Denver, for example, Colorado is a pretty heavy tourist state, but people fly into Denver, but then they go to the ski resorts,
Right.
Out in the mountains and stuff. They leave the city.
Breckenridge,
For the most
Aspen,
part. Yeah, exactly. So while people do go to Denver in droves, they don't stay in Denver like you do in Las Vegas, because there's so much to do, like you said, in Las Vegas, so much to do in Los Angeles, my God. And, places like that, their sports landscape, while, yeah, they have a high sports prevalence, that's not what most tourists are doing is sports. so I get what you're saying, where you're coming from that, and but hey, I'm happy for you got to experience what you did there while you were there.
Jesse, going from the NHL to the NBA, Adam Silver had mentioned during the NBA Finals that there would be no news of John Morant or anything going on with him until after the finals. And literally the day after the parade, the news came out that John Morant has been suspended for the first 25 games of the 2023-2024 NBA season. To nobody's surprise, the news came swiftly. It kind of sounded like it was already leaking, and Adam Silver did not want to take away from the fanfare that was the NBA Finals. But it looks like it's been in the works for a while now.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw it too, Jordan. The Players Association really vehemently disagreed with the length of the suspension, the way it was addressed out by Silver. So, while I think consensus says, like, for us, you and I, for example, pretty well agree with the decision by the league. Sounds like there's also a pretty substantial part or piece of the Players Association that does not agree with this. So where do you stand on the line of what the Players Association is kind of thinking?
It's rare to see something like this. You see it in most other leagues, but Adam Silver is known as a players commissioner. So to see him on vehemently on one side and just totally in the opposite direction on the other end of the swing is the NBPA. It's one of those things you don't see too often. Obviously, there are going to be some disagreements. I tend to be a little bit more on the player side in general, but with this specific instance, I find myself siding with Adam Silver. It was the second time that Ja was had been in trouble for something like this within a period of a few days. So seeing this is not super surprising to me. The question I think that's on a lot of people's minds is whether or not this was a fair punishment. Taking him out for 25 games, Jesse, that also takes away his ability going forward to be on any all NBA team because of the new rules of how many games you have to play to be qualified for that. So I think that's really what it comes down to and why they're so mad that this isn't going to happen, because this is affecting his pocketbook now because you do make more money being on those all NBA teams.
Yeah, I think that's probably 100% where they're at in why they're so angry. But also, I think, like you, I agree with Adam Silver 100% in kind of putting it at 25 games. I don't think it's too high personally. That's almost 1/3 of the season, right? And we saw down the stretch, not just with Ja, but the team, the Grizzlies as a whole, kind of their locker room was in some trouble, right? So I think this is a message to not only the Memphis Grizzlies, not only to Ja Morant, but to the NBA as a whole. Don't be doing this kind of stuff, and you'll be okay. Keep your eyes on the prize, if you will. And Ja, like you said, is going to hurt financially from this. I don't really have a whole lot of sympathy for him. So I'll start off by talking about what I told you guys about the other day, what happened this past weekend in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to Bob Huggins, legendary coach of West Virginia. This man is 4th all-time in Division I men's basketball victories. He's been to 2 Final Fours and is probably the greatest coach to never win a championship. Yet, in the span of 2 months, he has almost entirely tarnished his reputation. A reputation that is, like I said, pretty stellar. A racial slur on air halted his really solid reputation. But then last weekend, when he was arrested for DUI with a blood alcohol content of 0.21 in Pittsburgh, it goes to show you can fall from grace at a pretty rapid pace. Bob Huggins' legendary career, I can't even put into words, guys, what a tarnished reputation this has now become. And it it hurts my soul for college basketball because I've loved Bob Huggins for the last 25 years. Ever since I've been watching college basketball, I've seen Bob Huggins on a sideline. And for him to go from this peak to the bottom in less than 2 months, it's just, it hurts. And it hurts the sport. I don't really know what else to say. I'm kind of at a loss for words. And, we saw how guys like Mike Krzyzewski went into retirement with the gravitational force that every single game for Duke was televised. Yet, we're going to see Bob Huggins leave West Virginia, leave college basketball with nothing more than a footprint and a fingerprint at a Pittsburgh County jail.
So we had the U.S. Open in Los Angeles this past weekend. And the reason I know that is because I saw on the Rams page that Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, and Andrew Whitworth were there. Probably the three most famous guys there. Am I right, fellas?
In your eyes, yeah, of course.
Yeah, in a Rams fan's eyes, for sure.
So for sure. But there were some more important names there who were actually competing. One man by the name of Wyndham Clark, who doing a little bit more celebrating than the rest of the golfers this weekend.
As Jesse's pointing at, started at Oklahoma State. Big for them. Did finish his career at Oregon, but he's still technically, Oklahoma State alum. As a avid golf fan, I'm not saying it was disappointing that Wyndham won because he has such a great story involving his mother. And, he said he felt his mother on the course with him. Of course, she passed away with breast cancer years ago. But just what an awesome day to finish on Father's Day, to have his first major, to the journey that he's gone through, collegiately and then becoming pro in 2017, just kind of breaking through this last year, got his first win a couple months ago at the Wells Fargo, then wins his first major, which is pretty remarkable considering that I believe it was Rory McIlroy who did the same sort of thing. He won the Wells Fargo and then won a major a couple months later, which was also added to the story. But for all the golf fans, and this is not to take away from Wyndham at all, I promise you, this is not taken away from his victory. Super happy for him. He deserves it. He played really well. Almost gave it away on the back, but we won't talk about that. But we wanted Ricky Fowler so bad. I mean, the guy has just been struggling so badly for the last, we're talking 4 to 5 plus years now. He fell out of the top 100 in the world golf ranking, pretty much said that he lost his golf swing, wasn't really making tournaments. Back when he was good, he was, the guy that always finished second in majors, right? He's always right there, but can never quite get over the top. And I really thought he was going to win it when somebody said in his round on Saturday, he left a birdie putt short and a fan yelled out, "What are you doing?" And he just kind of looked at the fan and he said, "I'm leading the MFing US Open."
And to that point as well, Oklahoma State did have some great representation at the top of that leaderboard. Ricky Fowler, we did want to see him kind of push through that echelon, but I'd say a top 5 finish is still nothing to sneeze at,
And he was there too, all through Saturday, like you said, Austin, 54-hole lead, and then 7 bogeys on Sunday, and it just fell apart. And I think he had 2 birdies even on the entire card on Sunday. That's not going to get it done, especially when you had McIlroy and Clark coming at him throughout the entire day, and throughout the entire weekend, I should say. And that 62 shot Thursday was great, but you got to recover and stick better than a 75 on Sunday. And that really hurts. I was really pulling for Ricky, and it just, I'm gut wrenched for him, hurts.
Something had to happen too, because on that Sunday round, he was just having shots that were very uncharacteristic that we weren't seeing on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. He also wasn't able to get himself out of trouble like he was doing on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And also Thursday and Friday and Saturday, like you just said, he only had 1 birdie. He was making bogeys on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, but he was also making a lot of birdies. So he just couldn't get the putter to go to also kind of make some clutch putts. There was just a couple of shots there where he would have like 100, 125 yards out, 130 yards out with a wedge in his hand and put it to 30 feet. And that's just not the Ricky Fowlers that we were seeing throughout the weekend. So it's not disappointing. Just like Jordan said, top 5 finish in a major, fantastic. It's always going to be great. Looks like the schedule sets up for something special. Last year, it's kind of the same setup as Ricky had when he started to make his big time comeback. So keep your eyes out, still got a couple big time tournaments coming up. We are exactly a month away from the Open Championship, and it's going to be special.
Jesse, I know you were just watching the College World Series right now as it's continuing out in Omaha. We just watched Oral Roberts go down to TCU.
Yeah, and I mean, Jordan, you and your fellow Fresno State Bulldog fans can rest easy for one more year. A 4 seed will not win a championship for another season. So 2008 will still live on for now. Oral Roberts, just a great story for what they accomplished going as far as they did. To be honest, though, they weren't really a 4 seed in statistics. They were more like a 2 at 3 at worst, to be honest. But poor conference and not a tough schedule really kind of hurt them, but got the big win over TCU. Really came close to knocking off the number 2 overall seed Florida 2 nights ago. Just couldn't get it done today. Didn't have the big hits with runners in scoring position. They got runners on base, loaded the bases in the second, in the 9th even. Just couldn't get that hit that they needed to put pressure on TCU's pitching staff to really get it done. The way we're looking at it right now, we're looking at Wake Forest and Florida, number 1 and number 2. They're both 2-0. They're both playing the best out of the 8-team field, with Virginia and Stanford now gone and Oral Roberts gone. We're down to 5 teams. LSU, Tennessee, elimination game tonight. Right now, I'm not really convinced anyone's going to knock off Wake Forest or Florida before the final. But LSU and their fans, they know how to party, and I know they're going to come prepared tonight.
We've been seeing the board with the Jello shot leaders, and on ESPN, they're showing it consistently too. LSU is blowing everybody out of the water. Who knew the headquarters of Mardi Gras would know a thing or two about taking some Jello shots?
We're on day 6 right now, and they are at 23,000 on the leaderboard right now. More than 4 or almost 4 times that of Wake Forest, who's second on the list with 6,500. So it's crazy what they do down in Baton Rouge. I mean, my experience in Louisiana, I've been more northern part of the state where it's all dry county or dry parishes and, not drinking. Well, Baton Rouge, they came to party to Omaha this year, and I'm not saying that has any effect on how they're playing on the field, but they've really feeding off the energy in the crowd, and it's kind of showed the first couple games. They come up just a little bit short against Wake Forest, but they are going to give Tennessee everything they can handle in this rematch.
Fun fact for you. The head coach from Fresno State in the 2008 season, guess where he went to college?
Where's that?
Oral Roberts.
Ah.
Yeah, it's a fun little tidbit there. So I'm sure he wouldn't have been too upset if Oral Roberts would have been the 4 seed to move on. But yeah, at the moment, it's all Bulldogs. So go Dogs.
The one gripe I do have with the way the men's side of the College World Series kind of operates is that today's elimination games are both going to be rematches of the first round. So in the women's side, the loser of the 1-0 games, they drop down to the other, or they flip brackets, right? The way the men do it, you set yourself up for multiple rematches. And I just don't like that. I want there to be competition amongst the schools, right? I don't want to see Oral Roberts and TCU and LSU and Tennessee play for the second time in 4 days. They're not producing the same type of games, because Oral Roberts TCU on Friday was a barn burner and went down to the very end. This one, a 6-1 game. It wasn't really ever close, even though Oral Roberts got some base runners on throughout the game. Tennessee, LSU, I'm kind of expecting a little bit of the same. I think LSU is going to put Paul Skeens on the mound, and he's going to light up Tennessee for another double-digit strikeout performance. So,
Heard it here first.
Yeah, Skeens has definitely been the best strikeout pitcher in the country all season long. But besides that, I just want to see more action amongst the teams instead of seeing multiple rematches. You know.
Austin, I'm curious. Do you know any Sacramento Kings fans personally?
All my Cali boys are all Laker or Clipper fans, so no, I personally don't.
Well, now you do. Everybody, welcome Taylor Biggs onto the show. Taylor, how you doing today, man?
What's up, guys? I'm very surprised somewhere out in Montana that there aren't many Sacramento Kings fans out there either. That shocks me.
They're more so wishing that they still had the Seattle Supersonics out here.
I was about to say they're probably still hurt from that, yeah.
Oh, everybody is.
But
one of the greatest logos ever.
Here we stayed. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but Sacramento Kings were supposed to be the new Supersonics or whatever when we were supposed to move. But
I do remember that, yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's been a crazy year for the Sacramento Kings. What were your thoughts on the season?
I thought everything was a racing success, even the way it ended. We got a little taste of playoff glory and that experience. Everyone at the beginning didn't give us even a shot against the Warriors, and it just turns out Harrison Barnes missed three from going into the Lakers, going versus the Lakers and sweeping them, and then we would have beat the Nuggets and we would have been the NBA champions, So no, but it was great. Yeah, right. So we had the clutch player of the year in De'Aaron Fox. If you don't know about De'Aaron Fox, you guys need to educate yourself. Coach of the year, Mike Brown. Executive of the year, Monty McNair. Light the Beam was a raising success. Everybody did that. So we weren't expected to do anything this year. So it was definitely great to see us get some mainstream attention as well, and also get that taste of the playoffs and hopefully build on that.
One of the coolest parts about the Kings season, not the, but one of, is that we saw in the postseason that there still are real Sacramento Kings fans out there, because that building was honestly one of the loudest buildings in the entire postseason.
We have one of the best fan organizations out there. Grassroots campaign, like I said, here we stayed. We almost got sold, and basically the fans are the reason that we stayed. It was open shut, like we were going to Seattle and everything, and we were being sold to the highest bidder. And David Stern gave us an opportunity, and the fans, and we showed up, and you can hear that in the Kansas City Chiefs Arrowhead Stadium. Like, it is that loud there. It is absolutely bonkers. Like, it is nuts there. So like you said, that's another one. Light the Beam, and then seeing the fans get mainstream media attention for once. And hey, we're gonna have some national TV games next year, which is something we don't get. We normally get that token NBA TV game once a year, but that's it. So it's good that we're gonna get some attention, and it's also good that the Nuggets, built from the ground up, they just won, so it kind of goes away from what we were hitting on a little bit, the super teams and everything. So you can win with that ground up mentality.
The landscape of the Western Conference has definitely shifted this year. For the longest time, the Western Conference was considered the strongest conference. There were so many good teams. There were the Warriors, there were the Spurs, there were the Rockets, there were the Thunder. All of these teams were just super solid. Kind of seems to be shifting away from that. There's not as many big teams. Obviously, Denver is super strong up there. You got the Lakers, you got Phoenix. Where do you see the Kings fitting in the Western Conference landscape next year?
I see the West is wide open. Phoenix made their play with the Beal trade. They're going to basically go all in with their starting five and some Kroger grocery baggers on the bench. And then, you got Memphis, who's going to deal with the jaw suspension and, whether they can keep that going. You got LA. LA's always going to be into it. Is LeBron going to retire? No, that's just pressure on Rob, So you got a lot of teams up there, and I don't think any one of them, I think it's Denver's to lose, honestly, just the way they have everything set up. But you have a lot of teams right there that are just completely wide open. OKC was supposed to be in the victor race with you guys. They all of a sudden were in the play-in race. Like, it's going to be very, very wide open. All that to say, I'm seeing the Kings as still top 4.
I love that that grocery bag comparison for the Phoenix Suns. That was hilarious.
I mean,
It's-
that's basically what they're going to have.
It's
No, I
true.
know, but that's I was gonna say we're about to talk about the Bradley Beal trade. Let's get it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. We saw what the issue was in the playoffs against Denver. They didn't have anyone off the bench, and when Chris Paul got hurt, that was it for them. So what are they going to do now? I think Beal is a good player, but is he a top 10 player in the league? Hell no, he's not. He's a top 10 player. He's arguably a top 25 player. I would say he is, but we've seen his, I don't want to say decline because he's still a good player, but he hasn't been as productive the last few years. He has a history of injury. So this is a guy that you're banking on, and you're getting rid of your picks and Chris Paul, and you're getting rid of just everything that you have going for you. They're going to need to trade DeAndre Ayton, in my opinion, to stay competitive because they don't have anyone off the bench.
And another thing on that, the reason that it's not finalized yet is because Washington's still trying to get something for Chris Paul because they got, let's call it what it is, they got potato chips for Bradley Beal. And, you know, it was a Father's Day present to his son on Father's Day, which is weird because it's normally the other way around. But if you guys didn't know, Bradley Beal's agent, his son, is the CEO of the Phoenix Suns. Tampering much? Just kidding.
Wow.
Anyway.
I actually didn't know that.
Yep, his son is the CEO, like CEO type of the Phoenix Suns. So basically, I got an in-depth look on that voicemail that they left to Woj. I stole it, and it was basically like, "Hey, Dad, I'm coming over for Father's Day," and the dad was like, "Hey, bro, you know, just get the contracts to match the salary cap to match, and I'll get Brad to approve the trade, and I'll see you at dinner." So basically, the first offer was DeAndre Ayton on the table. Bradley Beal said, "No, we need a big man if I'm going to be there. I'm not going to prove it." He was the GM of the Washington Wizards in this case. So everyone's like, "Oh, you know, they got potato chips for Bradley Beal." They had no choice. He had 100% leverage. He could have said, "I'm not being traded except for LeBron James," and that would have been the only way he could have been traded. I don't blame Phoenix. You know, they already went all in with Kevin Durant. They're literally just saying, you know, we're already all in. Let's just go all in even more. They have one first round pick until 2030. That's it. This is it for them.
The interesting thing to me is that the trend in the NBA has been developed from within, and that's how you win a championship. Denver did it. The Warriors did it. Before that, the Bucks did it. It's very rare outside of a team with LeBron James that you make moves like this and it ends up working out. So one last thing on basketball, gentlemen. I don't know if you knew this, but Michael Jordan is a very, very rich man. And he just got a little bit richer. He sold his majority share of the Charlotte Hornets for a whopping $3 billion. A share that he purchased a little over a decade ago for $275 million. Even with inflation, that's a pretty penny that he just made back on them.
I mean, what has he done to really, truthfully improve that organization? I'm not talking about not trying to talk really bad on Michael Jordan, but to get $3 billion for a $280 million investment where you really didn't do a lot to improve the organization, I mean, it's pretty remarkable.
Just goes to show you the greatest player of all time is not the greatest executive of all time or the greatest owner of all time. I think he realized very quickly that being a player and being in management in the front office is not the same thing. Charlotte did get one thing. He did increase the valuation of that franchise by just solely using his name. And that's why, you know, that he got a lot back. That, and because the valuation of sports franchises are skyrocketing right now. Just like
yes,
houses.
they are.
So, you know, to get 12 times your investment for, like Austin said, he didn't really make his mark in that. But I think he realized that as a player, he had a lot of control in what he could do, and he could narrate things his way, and he could change the outcome by himself with his abilities. It's not necessarily that way in the front office. You got to have a lot of luck. You got to have a lot of perfect storm of things, i.e. Bradley Beal's situation that just happened. And, you know, unfortunately for him, he didn't have that.
Guys, baseball's really been heating up. I know we did say a couple weeks ago we're kind of heading into the dog days, but there's still a lot of really interesting things happening. One thing that I've been finding pretty crazy lately is this NL Central race. The Reds are on a 9-game winning streak. They're on top of the NL Central, and that race is so tight that the 4th place Cubs are only 3.5 games back.
And the Pirates have lost 7 straight too to lose the lead. Milwaukee's lost 12 of their last 14, have no offense whatsoever. And Jordan, like you mentioned with the Reds, the winning streak, they're doing it in all 3 aspects of the game as well. So really tough to beat them with that win streak. But another thing I want to talk to you about, you specifically, Jordan, looking at the Oakland A's and the Kansas City Royals. I know I mentioned it last week, but officially the Royals and the A's, if they were to contend right now, if they were to steady it out and finish out the season on pace, they would equal the worst record of all time. Sorry, Jordan. I don't mean to
That's a
barrel
lot
down
of
on you.
salt for your
Yeah, I
wound
don't-
there.
I don't think you're that sorry about this, Jesse. Something is telling me that
Something
you
there's
get
a
a
lot
little
of
bit of
excitement in
pleasure.
that voice.
Yeah. Yeah. If anything, you're on the other end of this thing. You got a little jittery there, like
He was smiling.
A's
Oh,
gonna lose.
Sorry, Jordan.
Yeah.
I will say this. I may have sounded a little harsh on you, Jordan. I can say, at least as someone who followed the Royals very closely with 2015, the World Series run, I went to ALDS Game 3. I follow them very closely. I still do. I have multiple jerseys, the Royals. I'm a little bit more of a Brewers fan, but I'm still watching Royals games, unfortunately, this season. So I'm not throwing too much shade at you because I'm kind of in the same boat. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, well, there's up and downs with every franchise. I mean, I look back at 2014, the Royals and A's were some of the best teams in the league, even though they were in that wild card spot. They had that epic wild card game that will go down in history as one of the greatest playoff games of all time. And then Kansas City pretty much swept their way to the World Series that year. They did lose that year to the Giants. Sorry, Austin. And Taylor. Taylor's also a Dodgers fan. But
I knew I liked this guy.
hey, but he's also a Rams fan, so that's why I like him. I mean, it is one thing that we had talked about. Jesse, you were on an episode at the beginning of the year where we were kind of predicting the divisions, and I said, don't sleep on the Reds. I said they kind of thought they were really, really bad for most of last year, but at the end they kind of pulled something together, so they are a team not to sleep on. Cardinals are the biggest surprise in that division. They are a whopping 8 games back right now.
Yeah,
Horrible.
I mean, whopping 8 games back, but they're 16 games under 500. So it's not like this division is, blazing the trails right now, like the AL East is. You got the AL East with all teams. I think the Red Sox are still above 500, so that makes all 5 teams. The Rays are the best team in baseball. The Orioles are not far behind them. So the NL Central looks kind of weak, for lack of a better term, but it is still a very tight race, so I get what you're saying.
Let's look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are second in the entire National League. They are the only team this year not to be shut out so far. So their defense has been putting in work. Their offense has just been electric all year. They are only behind Atlanta in that National League.
Well, I mean, if you look at the amount of money that the Padres spent this offseason, again, after already spending more money in the other offseasons, you would have definitely thought that the Padres would have been right there, but their pitching has not necessarily has, been what we thought it was going to be. And Xander Bogaerts, I mean, my boss is a big-time Padres fan, and all he complains about on Twitter is how this guy can go back to Boston. I can't believe we signed him for this much money. He's playing so bad. He's not worth this amount of money, yada, yada, yada. But it's not just him. It's the entire team. It just goes back. It's kind of like what we're seeing in a transition in the NBA right now. We're kind of seeing teams go away from that mantra of super teams and more so build it from the ground up, right? So you're kind of learning that you can't just bring a bunch of superstars together and expect them to gel and expect it to work, because you're not going to have that same level of chemistry from guys that you bring up from the depths of the farm system and the organization. Like the Dodgers do with the best farm system. I'm not being biased. I'm just saying in general, you're not going to have that same sort of chemistry. And we're looking at that right now with the Padres. they have all these big time superstars and it's just not working out. Yes, it is only the end of June. There's still a lot of time for them to turn it around.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could go with the Padres, Mets, or the Cardinals for most disappointing super team so far. They just basically injected money into that, and like he was saying, it takes a lot of time for that to gel. And Padres have had some down luck with injuries, as have the Mets. I mean, Edwin Diaz, he was out before the season even started, and that kind of put a kilter on things. But yeah, the Diamondbacks and the Giants, you can tell they have a lot of young pieces, and it's been building for a while since Posey left and stuff. They've shown glimpses of, you know, hey, we're going to be here for a while with the longevity of our team and the farm system and everything. So it's not good for me personally because I'm a Dodger fan, but it's good for the, you know, longevity of the sport. And as far as the Dodgers, I think you're going to see us get a relief piece, maybe a back end starter, because Syndergaard's been hurt and he has not done anything for us. But it's just been a cascade of, you know, pitching issues. Our offense is there. Injuries have, you know, depleted our pitching staff and everything, but we're going to be there at the end of the year, whether it be wild card or top of the NL West. But it was supposed to be a relatively down year for the Dodgers because we had those, you know, super regular season teams and everything. We didn't spend anything this offseason. Of course, while next year we're going after that one guy. I don't know what his name is.
That one guy.
Exactly. We're going after him.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a name I don't want to say on the show just because of the jersey he's wearing
now.
Hey.
Luis Arias is back to a 400 average. Sustainable? It's mid-June, and we're seeing him here, so who knows?
I mean, that stood since, who was it? Tony Gwynn, right? The last one? That's
the last person to hit
I believe
400.
That stood for a reason. You know, it's one of those that it's very special if you can touch 400 like that. And, you know, it's great that he's doing it, but it is also the end of June. So.
Folks, I can't believe season one's already coming to a close. We've had so much fun over these last 6+ months. Let's go ahead and take a look back and see some of those fun moments and remember the good times.
You guys are joking, right? I liked him better when he was fat.
Too much firepower.
I keep putting you in the coach's seat. Good old-fashioned American football has shocked the world, to be quite honest.
That's saying something.
This is everything you could want. You could feel it in the air.
Oh my goodness.
That was a boneheaded move. You're professionals. What are you doing?
I'm kind of speechless.
Dominating. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about. Good catch. Ah! Steaming. Peace. I'm out.
Without a care in the world, dude.
Sometimes better be lucky than good, man.
We got to talk about Miggy.
I don't hate it.
Not cool, man.
I get it.
I was like, wow, rack up the score.
And if somebody knows why that wasn't targeting, please let me know. Reach out to me.
Hit up the circus catch in our DM, and then we can exchange information there.
Somebody also said that exact same phrase a few decades ago. Was that a kid? Because I knew. You knew. We all knew.
I think I was right about this whole Brock Purdy situation.
It tends to follow with blatant disrespect.
It'll look cool. Go ahead, rewind it back, give a listen. Tell me I'm wrong.
Absolutely not.
What are they doing? Regardless of how you want to look at it, he is a cheat code.
Show us what you're made of. Beat us on the road.
Let's get back to the podcast.
I got 6-year-olds out here running faster than you.
Huge win on their side.
It's the dumbest thing that you could possibly do on offense.
Sure enough, he almost took off running down the field.
And this is where the courtesy ends, Richard.
I love it. It's amazing.
Just doesn't have that killer instinct.
That'll be on his career highlight reel.
I've never seen anything close to this. I'm so jealous of Boston sports fans and their freaking success.
Not many people like the fact that I'm from Southern California.
Unwarranted, but at the same time, just so damn funny.
What is he thinking?
And that's the news, folks.
Guy you dress up as for Halloween sometimes. One of the best to ever do it.
He ain't right back.
Jordan, I could flip a coin on this one.
Quite possibly one of the best things you'll ever taste in your life.
Sean Payton had some big stones for calling that onside kick against the Colts.
Let's say Super Bowl 25.
That's correct. Hell yeah.
Got it.
My brother, he had the fastest score in Super Bowl history.
You're like, yeah, we're men, we can bait. What? Boom. You got butt hurt.
It's being hailed as the Jackson curse. I'm joined today by the most hated man in Philadelphia.
He just showed you on the biggest stage that he can do that.
Best bromance that I've ever seen.
Is he the greatest of all time?
You can't take that away from him.
I'll eat my hat if I have to. It's gonna bite him in the rear.
Stars and stripes, man.
I'm becoming a social media guru.
I am dubbed the Houston player hater.
Now that school is no longer a school, I think I can say that legally.
He would literally call me a communist, just because I wasn't playing football.
It has been pouring this winter.
I take major exception with this one, Jordan. It was really awkward to see. Everyone can debate about it in the comments.
From a kid to a grandpa, basically. Tequila and habanero cheddar cheese. Wisconsin takes the cake on that one. I'm always up for the challenge. I don't know that I have a definitive answer for you.
Now it's nice to see them being able to contend.
I am very distracted.
My palms are a little sweaty, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, guess who called that one?
And we're not getting anywhere.
Who's your daddy?
8 years later, it still fits.
How shocking is that? I'm watching it right now. Don't spoil it. People haven't heard my take yet.
What is the end game for these two teams?
He must have turned left at Albuquerque.
Say that 5 times fast.
UConn's a blue blood.
It didn't really look too fancy in my eyes.
Right from the get-go, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, Jesse. We got to boost the ratings. We got to overreact to everything.
They got their butts smacked.
You'll see what I mean. Tank for Wemby.
It lived up to the hype, of course. You never know in basketball, right?
It's Stanley Cup or bust for these guys.
I don't have time to believe.
Third time's a charm, guys.
Getting a little too sappy for me, Jordan.
I love the hate between Philadelphia and Dallas.
I think a lot of dominoes are going to fall at that time. That's what it's all about.
He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
And we could potentially see an 8-1 upset. This felt like an old school brawl.
What more can you say?
That switch just gets flipped and he just goes off. I want that golden sombrero. That's why it's gonna be so delicious.
This is Jackson's villain origin story, ladies and gentlemen. The Raiders. Honestly, what the fuck?
And boom, David Tyree says you're welcome.
Bracket busted. It's something about the water in South Florida, man. I'm telling you, they are in some real trouble going forward.
Not even close.
Why would you possibly want to be on the circus catch this week?
But Jordan's right.
Do you remember the bubble? It is like magic.
I'm definitely not retracting what I said.
Are you kidding me? 100% 0 cents.
Let's go!
Have yourself a block party.
Man, come on. Give me something to work with here.
We're going for the sweet tonight. This is what was supposed to happen.
Who really didn't even belong on the same court as you.
That's why you love sports.
I'd rather see you guys fight. You broke the cardinal rule of perfect games.
Where's the energy from Dallas?
Just punch him when he's too worn out to fight.
What a killer, man.
We are going there. We might as well win the damn thing and get ourselves out there.
Wait, I need a line.
I live for it.
I do have a couple W's in my belt. What do you guys think? It's crazy.
This is something that you've never seen in the history of golf.
I feel like a real rebel.
They have that grit
My boys belong in the trash right now.
and have the heart of the champion, as some would say.
He wants to get home and race his horses.
It came down to the wire last night.
First ever outfit change in the middle of a show.
It went up 30 cents a gallon in the last week.
Las Vegas is going to be booming tomorrow. Yeah, man, that was great.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. Guys, I don't know what to say. Thank you so much for coming on this show. It means a lot to me that you guys were all here for the last episode for the season. Can't wait to do this all again with you as soon as we can get this thing fired back up again.
Jordan, it's been a pleasure, my friend. From Full Sail and beyond, we got to meet up last week. Thanks for having me be a part of this inaugural season, my friend.
Thanks for having me on this episode, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
Hey, Jordan, first inaugural season. This has been an absolute blast. Full Sail, brothers sticking together. It's been awesome. Love you, Jesse, Jackson. Just met Taylor. Sorry, don't necessarily have that type of connection with you. But, hey, from all over Montana, we will always do this, get it done however we can. What an honor it's been, and I really appreciate it. Looking forward to, I'm saying early August, start talking some football. That's when we should talk fantasy football.
I can't wait. Oh, no. Taylor, back me up on this. Back me up on this, Taylor. So we're starting mocks pretty soon, right?
I was about to say, if you're talking in August, like the mock has to be done already. Like,
thank you.
These have to be already processed. Like, it's already got to be ready to go type stuff.
How many titles have you won in the last couple of years?
I pretty much win every year, so that says something about the league, or
Yeah, I
just
guess
says
that's
something
true.
about my skills. I don't know which one that says
Maybe
more.
maybe a combo of both. We'll go
Yeah,
combo.
true.
Of both.
Yeah.
Oh man, okay. We can talk fantasy football all day. We can talk sports all day, but I just want to say thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart, whether you've been on for almost every episode or whether you've been on for one episode. I appreciate you guys so much. Let's do it again soon. So from somewhere in Montana, definitely not driving, somewhere in Oklahoma, definitely sitting down, and just right down the road in Porterville, out to Tulare, California. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Have a good one. Peace out.
Deuces.
And that's a wrap.